friends, I'm Valeria at Chase and Paper. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to share another recycling project. We're going to recycle this tissue box into a beautiful junk journal in folio. In my previous videos, I showed you how I recycled these big tissue boxes into beautiful junk journals like this, and how to recycle these cube boxes into little folios that look something like this. And I'm going to link those videos in the description below so that you can check them out in case you haven't seen them yet. But today we are going to work with this rectangular tissue box with the oval opening on top. And we are going to make a beautiful folio that's very similar to this one. Let's take a look at our prototype so we can see what we are going to be making. It opens up and inside there's a pocket galore. On the left side, we have a little belly band right here with the little postcard in there. And there is a pocket underneath the belly band. I included this little writing tag for extra writing room. Now on the right side, I put one of my famous split pockets and it holds a tag. Middle section also has a twine closure. It opens up. We have a little secret envelope. It holds this little writing card, but it's also a pocket. We have an envelope, and it also holds some fun pieces of ephemera. Behind those envelopes, this is where our main tag is hiding. Let me flip it over. This is the tag that's visible from our window on the front. So I'm going to take the tag out, and that's what our window looks like when the tag is out. And let's take a closer look at the tag itself. I made a fun, simple collage on the front. And I lined the back with this vintage cross-stitch pattern. So this is what we're going to be making today. It's going to be a lot of fun, and this little folio is going to make a great companion to any junk journal or a perfect gift for a friend, or something fun to include with your happy mail. So many wonderful uses. Let's go ahead and get started. We are going to begin with the large rectangular tissue box. Let's go ahead and flatten this box out. I'm going to open the sides up. And now that our box is nice and flat, we are going to go ahead and cut off some of these panels. So when you look at your box like this with the window panel on the left, you have a little smaller panel on the right, and we're keeping that panel. So I'm going to make my cut right here, right on this edge. Don't worry if the cuts aren't perfect. We get to adjust them later on. There. We are going to make another cut. So I'm going to cut off this back panel completely. But don't throw it out because we are going to use it later on. Now we won't need any of these flaps on top or on the bottom, so we will cut them off. But I'm also thinking ahead, and I know that this is a very large box. It measured 9 inches long to begin with, so this is a bit too tall for my folio. We are going to cut it down just a little bit on top and bottom. Let's flip it over just because we are going to be able to see it a little better without the pattern getting in the way. And I'm going to take this plastic off. Now I'm going to use a ruler, and I'm going to mark 3/4 of an inch on top of our window and 3/4 of an inch on the bottom of our window. Now I'm going to draw a straight line, and this is going to show me where I need to cut down our box to make a folio of a little more manageable size. There. And now I'm going to cut it down right on the lines. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off about 1/2 inch right here on the left side. And now it fits much better. The folio closes nicely, and this is what it looks like. It's going to allow us to place the closure directly in the center, and it's going to work better and look better. Now let's go ahead and line the front with some pretty paper. This is the paper I chose. This is a beautiful paper. It's one-sided and it's kind of on a thicker side, so I do not want to add extra bulk on the folds on both sides of our folio. And also because this paper is a bit thicker, I'm worried that it might crack with repeated opening and closing. So instead of gluing it onto the entire surface, I'm going to cut it into 3 panels and then glue the separate panels on. So the most important panel is, of course, on the front. Let me flip this paper over where we can see better. I'm going to mark right on the bottom edge. And I'm staying just a tiny little bit away from my fold, maybe just like 1/8 of an inch, just so it fits good. And this is how tall my piece of paper needs to be. There. And now I'm going to cut it down. So there's our first panel. I'm placing my paper on top. And by the way, I strategically chose the color and the busy pattern of the paper. My box was green, so it's not really noticeable that we have an uncovered edge. But if that bothers you, or if your cover paper does not match the pattern of your box, you can always go ahead and add some heavier inking on the folds, and that's going to mask those gaps. And now we need to open this window. I'm going to use my utility knife. You can use an X-Acto knife. And there's our window. I will go ahead and ink inside of the window. And now we can go ahead and glue on our 2 remaining panels. All right, now that our glue is nice and dry, I'm going to go ahead and cut off all this extra paper on the sides. And now the outside of our folio is beautifully covered and we can move to the back. Next, we need to add some acetate or transparency. I'm using transparency to cover the window. I'm going to mark my transparency so that I know how big it needs to be when I need to glue this on. Just put in some small marks and I'm going to cut it out. There is our transparency cut to size, and now I'm going to use this double-sided crafter's tape to attach it. I'm going to put some crafter's tape just around the window. And placing our transparency down. There. And now that our transparency is in place and it looks great on the front and back, we can go ahead and line the back of our folio. I am choosing to use this scrapbooking paper. This paper is a lot thinner than the one we used on the front, so we don't have to worry about cutting it into panels. We can cover the entire base with this paper. But we do have to keep in mind that we have our window right here in the middle. Now, most of this panel will be covered in the back, so we don't have to worry about cutting out a perfect oval. I'm going to show you what I am going to do. So I'm putting the paper directly on top of my folio, and you are going to be able to fill that window with your fingers. I know you can't see it, but I can feel it, and so will you when you're making this. And now I'm not going to draw a perfect shape of that window. All I need to know is about where my window ends and go about 1/2 inch up from where your window ends and 1/2 inch on the side, 1/2 inch on the bottom. And I'm just going to draw a rectangle. I'm not even using a ruler because it's all going to be covered up eventually, and it does not have to be perfect. And it's a lot easier to cut out a rectangle rather than cutting out an oval. And again, you can use your scissors here. It doesn't matter. You're not going to see any of this once we are finished. The important thing is you do not want to see any of the paper through your window once you cover it up. Okay, so you just want to make sure that no paper shows on the front. That's all. That's the only important thing about this. I'm going to go ahead and put the glue on the entire base, on the inside. I'm not putting any of this glue on the transparency though, mostly because it wouldn't do anything anyway. This glue stick would not hold the paper to a plastic transparency. And guess what? We can even put some of this tape on the inside of our paper. Now let's place the paper on top. And now that we made sure there are no bubbles and no waves, we can go ahead, check the front, make sure everything looks good. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut away all this extra paper. Looking good. I'm going to go ahead and train these creases with my bone folder. And now I'm going to go ahead and round all corners. And now I will go ahead and ink lightly all around the edge, inside and outside. And now that I inked all around the edges, we can go ahead and prepare our closures. We are going to need a total of 4 little circles. So I'm bringing back this little offcut from our box, and I'm going to use the parts of the box to make the closure. I'm going to use this little scrap of brown paper. Apply our paper. There. And the second piece. There. Now I'm going to let it dry. Meanwhile, while our paper is drying, let's find the placement for our closure. So I am going to use a ruler to make sure that I have a perfect placement. And I'm going to find about the center, about the middle of my folio. The center is about right here. So I'm going to measure 1 inch away from this edge and mark it on this side, and then I'm going to measure 1 inch this way and mark it on this side. I'm using an awl to pierce the holes on the marks right here and right here. There. Now let's take a look at our paper. It's nice and dry. And now I'm going to use a 1 inch circle punch to punch out 4 circles. There. First one. Now let's put a hole in the center of each of these circles. And now we have 4 beautiful circles with holes in the center. We are going to put 2 of these circles aside for later. For now, we just need 2. And we are going to attach them right here where we pierced our holes. Put my circle right on top. Put in the pronged braid right through. And through the hole in our folio, like this. Flipping it over. And flatten them out with my bone folder. I want them nice and flat. There. I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. That's all we have to do for the closure so far. Now let's go back inside and work with our middle section. Now for the inner pocket, I chose this scrapbooking paper. The important thing is this is a double-sided paper. This is going to make things a lot easier. Now with this double-sided paper, I want this gold shiny script side to be visible from the front. So it's going to look like this. And I really like that. And this is the side of the pocket that is going to be visible on the inside. So I'm putting the left edge of the panel along the edge of the paper. And I'm going to mark my paper 1 inch wider than this panel. Okay, so as wide as the panel plus 1 inch. Now let's figure out how tall we want it to be. And I think a good place to start is about 1/2 inch taller than our folio. If it's too tall, we are going to adjust that later. Now I'm going to fold about 3/4 of an inch on both sides of this rectangle, both long sides. And I'm going to fold about 1/2 inch on the bottom. Now I'm going to flip over our rectangle. Again, this is the side that's going to be visible from the window. And there we go. So 3/4 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch, and about 1/4 of an inch on the bottom. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut in these little corners. That's going to eliminate some of the bulk with our pocket. I can now see that my pocket is going to be just a bit too tall. So I am going to mark right about here and cut it down before putting the glue on all these sides and gluing it in. Now our pocket is glued in. This is what it looks like on the outside. And next, I am going to create a flap that's going to go over this pocket. I'm bringing in the offcut of the same paper we used here, and we are going to mark it to be exactly the same width as our pocket. And I'm going to cut it on the mark. This is where this flap is going to go. And we are going to put a crease line to fold it in about 1/2 inch up from the edge of our folio. So I'm going to mark it right about here, and I'm going to fold it there. Before I glue this part on, I'm going to round the corners. Right on there. And there is our closure. Now, if you think that these little prongs look pretty ugly and detract from how our folio looks on the inside, I agree, you're absolutely right. But we are going to cover them up. It's all part of the plan. So we're going to begin with this side. And I'm going to use one of my scraps. This is a perfect project to use up your scraps. And I am going to create a little side pocket. There. And now I'm going to add this piece of ephemera on top of our newly made pocket. This is going to be kind of like a belly band. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue right on here and on here. There. I'm adding this little piece of ephemera right here at the bottom of our belly band. I think it makes it look a little more finished off and balanced. And down it goes. And now let's put some ephemera inside of our pocket right here and behind our belly band right over here and there. Great, now let's work with the right panel of the folio. I want to cover up these metal prongs, so I am going to use one of my world-famous split pockets. It starts off exactly the same way as our blue pocket. I'm going to fold my sides at about 1/2 inch wide. like this. Now I have to make sure that it fits well. So this side I'm going to fold in about up to here. There. I'm going to cut it down to about 1/2 inch. And now the bottom, also about 1/2 inch, like that. Now let's go ahead and cut these little corners right here. I'm going to cut a strip of about 1 inch on top. This is going to be the top of our split pocket. Now the bottom of the pocket, I'm going to make that shorter. So I'm going to cut about another inch off. There. And this is our bottom. So now we are going to glue them down. So it's still a pocket, but it has a gap in the middle. Gluing it right near the bottom. There. And now let's close the gap between two parts of our pocket. I'm going to use this bird and glue it right on top. Put in some glue on the top part and some on the bottom. And I am going to use one of my pre-made tags to put inside. A perfect fit. Now let's return to our middle section. First of all, I want to add a pocket on the bottom. So now I'm going to use a piece of the same paper to make a little coin envelope to go right here on the bottom. And I'm using the term a coin envelope very loosely. And now I'm going to fold this side down like that. And I don't need it to be that big, so I'm going to cut it at about 1/2 inch. There, that's all I need. Now I'm going to fold the bottom, which in our case is going to be a left-hand side. There. Now I'm going to cut in these little corners. I'm gonna open that up, cut this side off. We don't need all that bulk. And I'm going to cut off this little piece. And there. Our little coin envelope is formed. It's going to go right here. I am not gluing it closed just yet. There are a couple of things I want to do. So first of all, I want to punch a little thumb hole right here on the front. And I'm going to use my circle punch to do that. There, that looks good. But now we can see a little bit of white paper. I don't want any white paper to be visible when we glue it down. So I'm going to cover up this white part with our leftover piece of paper. And there. Now we'll go ahead and ink it all around the edge. And now that our envelope is all inked around the edge, we would be ready to glue it down. But let's take a look at our prototype. So in our prototype, we have a closure right here. And one of them is attached to our bottom envelope. This is what these two circles were for. And so I was planning on attaching this circle right here before gluing it down. And the other circle would have gone right over here. But while I was looking for the pieces of the ephemera for my pockets in this Kathy Holden Market Finds set, I found this really cool medal. And I thought it would be great to incorporate it somehow as our closure. So this is what I love about crafting. It's good to have a plan, but we also have to be ready to abandon that plan and try out something new and different. This is how the best things happen. Now I backed this medal with the same paper because as I'm going to attach it right here, I know that a part of the medal will be visible, so I didn't want it to be stark white. And I'm going to glue this medal in the middle of our flap. And so our closure on our envelope would be somewhere around here. And now that I found a good placement, I'm going to mark right through the hole with my pencil. Now for the closure on this envelope, I'm no longer going to use this brown circle. I'm going to use something a little more fun. I went through this set of stickers and I found this little round sticker that's going to go very nicely with our medal. And I'm piercing that hole. I am using a little golden thread, putting it through the hole and opening up my prongs in the back, like so. Adding a little piece of Scotch tape to smooth things out inside. There. And our circle is beautifully attached. Now we can glue that pocket in its place. Adding a little bit of glue on my sides, right here. Closing it, there. I want to make this coin envelope into another pocket, so I'm going to use my art glitter glue again and only put the glue on 3 sides. So the bottom, right here, and the left and right sides. There. Making sure that it is still aligned with our medal. And now that the glue is all dry, we can put some fun ephemera into our envelope and into our pocket. How about we place this beautiful red roses French card inside of our coin envelope right here, and this little botanical piece of ephemera right here into our tuck pocket. But we still have some room here, so I want to add another envelope on top right here. I am going to begin with this scrap of paper. It measures about 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches. The important thing is it's a square. And we're going to make a quick and simple little envelope out of it. So first, I'm going to fold it in half, but I'm not going to put a big crease. I'm just going to put tiny little crease in the middle. That's going to show me where the center is. Now, I'm going to turn my paper like this and fold my sides towards that crease. Now, I'm going to use my ruler and put it right here, right across these 2 points. And I'm going to bring my bottom up so that until the corner touches the ruler. I'm guessing I didn't start with the perfect square, but that's okay. It's still going to look nice. Now I'm moving my ruler to touch these 2 points. And I'm going to fold this little corner over the ruler like that. Now I'm going to use that crease and fold it inside there. And now I am going to put my ruler right here, parallel with the bottom of my envelope, and bring this part down over the ruler. And there. Our cute little envelope is complete. I also went ahead and I inked my envelope all around the edges. And since I was working with one-sided paper, I added a little bit of stenciling just right here on the top part, which is going to be visible when the envelope is open. Adding a little bit of glue here and along this edge right here and right here. Closing it up. Now our envelope is complete, and I'm going to add this little number piece right here on the front to act as a little tuck closure. So I'm going to put a little glue on the sides only. There. And our closure works really well. There, it just tucks right in. Let's go ahead and glue this envelope into our folio. Making sure it's nice and straight and parallel to the sides and the top. Looking good. And I'm going to add these two pieces of ephemera inside of our new envelope. Putting this piece of ephemera back in. Now let's go ahead and finish off this closure. Now I'm going to do something really radical. I'm going to cut off this medal. Please don't panic, it is going to be okay at the end. We have to do this, otherwise our closure wouldn't work. There. We need to attach this circle on top. So there are a couple of ways we can do this. I'm going to cut another piece of our cardboard box. I'm going to make it a small strip that's going to be a little narrower than this piece right here. Now, because this piece is so narrow, at no point it's going to be visible on the front. So I'm going to go ahead and line one side only with this same paper. Now I'm going to take the medal that we just cut off and I am going to place it on the end of our piece and I'm going to pierce a hole. Now that the hole is in place, I'm going to flip it over, place the medal on top of this piece and place another cardboard circle that I punched out and covered with paper on the back, like that. So we made a little sandwich. I'm going to put my golden bread right through all three pieces. I'm going to open up those prongs. I'm going to put some glue on it, almost down to the middle. There. Flipping it over. Let's turn it around and see what it looks like on the front. It looks really good. And now our medal is attached. And it's going to work as a perfect closure. And now I'm going to use some black and white baker's twine. And I'm going to make 2 or 3 knots just to be extra secure. Right over left, left over right. I'm going to snip off that piece of twine really short, like that. And now we can wrap our twine around our medal and the bottom piece, like that, to keep it closed. There. And now we can go ahead and make our focal point tag, which is going to go inside this window. We are going to use our leftover piece of a tissue box. As you can tell, I really want to use this tissue box to the max. I'm going to mark how tall it needs to be. And now let's mark how wide it needs to be. I'm going to cut it down according to my marks. After cutting our piece to size, I went ahead and lined one side with this pretty scrapbooking paper, and I lined the other side with some simple lined paper from a vintage notebook. I added this washi sticker. Now let's go ahead and create our focal point. I chose this beautiful couple from Tim Holt's Paper Dolls collection, but this background is too busy and they kind of get lost, so I decided to add a couple of collage elements. I'm going to use these 2 bits of ephemera behind them. The tag is almost complete. I'm going to use this piece of ephemera and we are going to glue it right here on top. Great, so our topper is secured in place. And that should make it much easier to take this tag out and put it in there. And here it is. I think it looks really nice. I went ahead and I tied a piece of baker's twine, and now I'm going to wrap this twine around both of our circles to close our folio. There. And as a very final touch, I'm going to add these beautiful roses near the bottom of our folio to add an extra layer. There. And there we go, my friends. We made a beautiful folio out of this big rectangular tissue box. Please let me know in the comments which folio you like better, and also let me know if you think you are going to give this project a try. I really hope you liked today's video. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and share this video with your friends and with your crafting groups. Thank you so much for spending time with me today, and I can't wait to see you next time.